Ma'am, you need to exit the vehicle.
No! Get your hands off me!
Ma'am, cooperate or we'll have to restrain you.
This is wrong! I did nothing!
You're under arrest.
Get your hands off me. He yanked the door open. His fingers dug into her arm like she was a suspect on the run. You think because you're old I won't drag you out? This isn't your neighborhood anymore. She stumbled onto the pavement. Her glasses hit the concrete and cracked. Her knees buckled, but she caught herself on the side mirror. Her voice was barely a whisper. Please, sir, I've lived on this street for decades. I'm just going to church. He didn't hear a word. He shoved her forward and the elderly woman's body hit the hood of the patrol car. But that cop had just made the biggest mistake of his entire career. He just didn't know it yet. Let me take you back. Oak Ridge Lane, Hadley, Virginia, a quiet street lined with oak trees older than anyone living on it. The kind of neighborhood where people still wave from their porches and leave pies on each other's doorsteps. It was early October, a Saturday morning. The air smelled like damp leaves and fresh cut grass. Sunlight came through the branches in gold patches, warming the sidewalks and the rooftops of modest, well-kept homes. At the end of the block sat a small brick house with a white porch and a set of wind chimes that hadn't stopped singing since the year her husband hung them up. He had been gone some time now. The wind chimes stayed. Evelyn Brooks was in her garden, a retired schoolteacher who spent many years shaping young minds at Hadley Elementary. She knelt beside her rose bushes, pulling weeds with bare hands, humming a hymn she had known since she was a child. Inside, gospel music drifted from the kitchen radio. The smell of fresh cornbread cooled on the counter. On the mantel, a row of framed photos told her whole life, her wedding day, her students, her late husband in his Sunday suit, and right in the center, a photograph of a tall black man in a police dress uniform standing beside the mayor shaking hands, her son, Marcus Brooks, the chief of police of Hadley, Virginia. But you wouldn't know that just by looking at Evelyn. She didn't drive a luxury car, she didn't live in a gated community, she wore gardening gloves and a church hat, and she called everybody sweetheart. To the neighbors, she was just Miss Evelyn, the woman who brought casseroles when someone got sick and read stories to the kids at the library every week. Across the street, Margaret Ellis sat on her porch with a cup of coffee. She was Evelyn's neighbor for decades. The two women waved at each other like they did every morning. No words needed, just a wave and a smile. Decades of friendship in a single gesture. Evelyn checked the time. She had a volunteer meeting at the church soon. She wiped the dirt off her hands, grabbed her Bible and a stack of church bulletins from the kitchen table, and headed for her car, a beige sedan parked right in front of her house. She backed out of the driveway, slow and careful, the way she always did. Seatbelt on, mirrors checked, speed limit respected, not a single thing out of place. Now let's talk about the other side of this story. 3 blocks away, a black and white patrol car sat idling at the curb. Inside were 2 officers. The one behind the wheel was Derek Harlan, white, some years on the Hadley police force. Built like a man who spent more time at the gym than at his desk, jaw clenched, eyes scanning the street like he was hunting. His partner, Ryan Whitaker, sat in the passenger seat. He was quieter, the kind of officer who followed orders and kept his mouth shut. Harlan was talking. He was always talking. You see what's happening to this neighborhood? Used to be nice around here. Now look at it. Whitaker said nothing. He stared out the window. I pulled a kid over last week, Harlan continued. 15 minutes of attitude. Told him I'd make his life hell if he ever talked to me like that again. You know what happened? Nothing. Internal Affairs didn't even blink because they know I'm right. He leaned forward and spotted a beige sedan pulling out of a driveway at the end of Oak Ridge Lane. An elderly black woman behind the wheel. Harlan's mouth curled into a grin. Well, let's see what Grandma's up to. Whitaker glanced at him. She didn't do anything. Did I ask you? Harlan put the car in drive, and just like that, the worst day of Evelyn Brooks's life started moving toward her. The red and blue lights hit Evelyn's rearview mirror before she even made it to the second block. She blinked, checked her speed. She hadn't rolled a stop sign, hadn't made an illegal turn, hadn't done a single thing wrong. The siren chirped once, short and sharp like a dog snapping at her heels. Evelyn pulled over to the right side of the street, just past the corner. She put the car in park, turned off the engine, and placed both hands on the steering wheel where they could be seen. She taught her students this back when she stood in front of a classroom for many years at Hadley Elementary. She taught her kids what to do when the lights come on behind you. Stay calm, be polite, hands where they can see them, don't give them a reason. She taught her own son the same thing long before he ever wore a badge himself. She waited. In the side mirror, she watched the officer step out. Tall, broad, sunglasses on, even though the morning light was soft and golden. He adjusted his belt, cracked his neck to one side, took his time. He walked toward her car with the kind of slow, heavy stride that said he wasn't in a hurry, that said he enjoyed this part. Derek Harlan leaned into her window. He didn't greet her, didn't introduce himself, didn't say good morning. His shadow fell across her lap like a stain. License and registration. 3 words. No please, no ma'am, just a command. Evelyn nodded gently. Of course, officer. May I reach into my purse? It's right there on the passenger seat. Harlan stared at her. His jaw tightened. Did I say you could ask questions? License, registration now. She moved slowly, carefully. The way you move when you know one wrong gesture could be your last. She opened her purse with 2 fingers, pulled out her wallet, and handed over her license. Then she leaned toward the glove compartment, moving like the whole world was watching, and pulled out her registration. Harlan snatched both from her hand without even glancing at them. "You know why I pulled you over?" "No, sir, I don't believe I do. This vehicle matches the description of a car involved in a burglary 2 streets over." Evelyn looked at him. Her beige sedan was some years old, dented on the rear bumper, a faded church parking sticker on the windshield, a pair of reading glasses on the dashboard, and a Bible on the passenger seat. It matched nothing except a grandmother on her way to a volunteer meeting at her church. "Officer, I've owned this car for years. I was just heading to—" "I didn't ask where you were going." He cut her off cold, final, like her voice was a door he wanted shut. Harlan walked back to his patrol car with her documents. He took his time running her plates. Minutes passed. Evelyn sat perfectly still, both hands on the wheel, watching the minutes tick by on the dashboard clock. She was going to be late for Pastor Moore's meeting. She thought about reaching for her phone to call him, but she didn't dare move, not with those eyes watching her in the mirror. Behind her, Harlan leaned against the hood of his patrol car, staring at his computer screen. Everything came back clean. No warrants, no outstanding violations, no criminal history, not even a parking ticket in decades. The car wasn't stolen. The plates matched. The registration was current. The insurance was valid, clean, completely spotless. Any reasonable officer would have walked those documents back, said sorry for the trouble, and moved on with his morning. Derek Harlan was not a reasonable officer. He walked back to her window, slower this time. His jaw set harder than before. His boots scraped the asphalt with every step. "Step out of the vehicle." Evelyn's heart dropped into her stomach, but her voice held steady. Decades of standing in front of a classroom had taught her how to keep her voice level when everything inside was screaming. "Officer, may I ask why? Your system should show that everything is in order." I said, "Step out. I'm not going to repeat myself." "Sir, I have a right to know why I'm being asked to—" "You have a right." Harlan pulled his sunglasses down and stared at her over the rims. "Lady, the only right you have right now is to do exactly what I tell you. Step out of the vehicle." In the patrol car behind them, Whitaker sat watching. His hand rested on the door handle, his fingers curled around it. But he didn't move, didn't speak, didn't open the door. Evelyn took a slow breath. She unclipped her seatbelt. She opened the door gently and stepped onto the sidewalk. The morning breeze caught the hem of her floral dress. She held her Bible against her chest with both hands like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Harlan looked her up and down slowly. "The way you look at something you've already decided has no value." Hands on the car. "Excuse me?" "Put your hands on the hood of the car. Spread your feet apart." She was elderly, arthritis in both wrists, standing on a public sidewalk in a neighborhood where people had known her name for decades. And this officer, this man half her age, was telling her to assume the position like she had just committed a felony. "Officer, this is not necessary. I am a retired school teacher. I live right down this street. My house is the brick one with the white porch." "Right. I don't care if you live in the White House." Hands on the car now. Evelyn placed her Bible carefully on the roof of her sedan. She pressed her palms flat against the warm metal hood. The heat from the sun bit into her arthritic fingers. Her arms trembled, not from fear, from the sheer weight of holding her dignity together while a stranger tried to strip it away. Harlan stepped closer, much too close. She could smell his cheap aftershave and the stale coffee on his breath. He stood behind her like a wall. "You know what your problem is? You people always think the rules don't apply to you. You think you can just cruise around a nice neighborhood looking like you belong." "Looking like you belong." Evelyn closed her eyes. Those words echoed somewhere deep. She had heard them before. Not from a police officer, from a department store clerk years ago who followed her down every aisle, from a real estate agent who told her this neighborhood might not be the right fit, from a parent at back-to-school night who looked at her and said, "I didn't expect someone like you to be teaching my child." The words changed shape over the decades, but they always meant the same thing. You don't belong here. 2 doors down, Margaret Ellis stepped off her porch. Her coffee mug was still in her hand. She had been watching since the patrol car first lit up. She knew Evelyn, knew her car, knew that woman had never so much as jaywalked in her life. Margaret's hands were shaking when she sat down the mug, pulled out her phone, and dialed 911. "I need to report something. There's an officer on Oak Ridge Lane. He's harassing my neighbor. She's an elderly woman. She hasn't done anything wrong. He has her hands on the hood of a car. Please send someone." On the opposite side of the street, a blue pickup truck slowed to a stop. Pastor Jerome Hayes was behind the wheel. He was on his way to the church when the flashing lights caught his eye. He turned his head and saw her. Evelyn Brooks, hands pressed to the hood, a uniformed officer towering behind her. Hayes parked quietly along the curb. He didn't get out yet. He reached for his phone, opened the camera, pressed record. The small red dot blinked in the corner of his screen. Back at the car, Harlan ran his palm along the roof of Evelyn's sedan like he already owned it. "I'm going to search this vehicle. I do not consent to a search, officer. That is my right." He leaned in close enough that she felt his breath on the back of her neck, close enough that she could hear his teeth when he smiled. "I wasn't asking for your consent." He walked to the passenger side, opened the door, and started tearing through her things. The church bulletins, he swept them onto the floor. her reading glasses case tossed onto the seat, her purse, the tan leather one her granddaughter saved up to buy her for Christmas. He flipped it upside down and shook it. Lipstick, tissues, a small bottle of aspirin, loose change, a grocery list, and a photograph of her late husband all scattered across the seat and onto the floor mat. Then he picked up her Bible, held it in one hand, turned it over like it was a piece of junk at a yard sale, and dropped it on the ground. The spine cracked when it hit the pavement, pages bent under its own weight. Evelyn heard it. She didn't turn around. She stood with her hands pressed against the hood, staring straight ahead at the oak tree across the street. Her lips moved once, a prayer no one else could hear. On the curb, Pastor Hayes' phone kept recording. The red dot kept blinking, and Officer Derek Harlan still had absolutely no idea what was coming for him. Harlan found nothing in the car, not a thing. No drugs, no weapons, no stolen property, nothing even remotely suspicious, just a Bible with a cracked spine lying on the pavement, a pile of scattered church bulletins, and the personal belongings of an elderly woman dumped across her passenger seat like garbage. He stood by the open passenger door for a long moment, staring at the mess he had made. His jaw worked side to side, his nostrils flared. You could see it on his face. Not embarrassment, not guilt. Frustration. The kind of frustration a man feels when reality refuses to match the story he already told himself. He slammed the passenger door shut. The whole car rocked on its tires. Then he walked back to Evelyn. She was still standing where he left her, hands on the hood, palms flat, fingers aching from the arthritis that had been eating at her joints for years. Her shoulders were tight. Her floral dress shifted in the breeze, but she hadn't moved, hadn't complained, hadn't raised her voice once. Harlan stopped right behind her, close enough that his shadow swallowed hers completely. You think you're smart, don't you? Evelyn said nothing. You think because I didn't find anything, that means you're clean. That means you get to walk away. Officer, I have cooperated with everything you've asked. My record is clean. My car is clean. I would like to leave now, please, please. She actually said please to the man who had just torn through her belongings and thrown her Bible on the ground. Elderly, standing in the October sun, and she was still saying please. Harlan leaned down until his mouth was level with her ear. You leave when I say you leave. Not a second before. He straightened up, looked around the street, saw Margaret Ellis watching from 2 doors down, saw the blue pickup truck parked across the way. He didn't notice the phone, didn't see the red dot blinking on Pastor Hayes' screen. He was too focused on the woman in front of him, too consumed by the fact that she wasn't afraid of him. That's what made him dangerous, not the badge, not the gun. The fact that this woman's calm, quiet dignity made him feel small, and men like Derek Harlan don't handle feeling small. You've been obstructing my investigation from the moment I pulled you over. Evelyn turned her head slightly. Sir, I have not obstructed anything. I answered every question. I gave you my documents. I stepped out when you told me to. I stood here while you searched my car without my consent. I have done everything you asked. Every word was true, and that only made him angrier. Are you talking back to me right now? No, sir. I am simply stating facts. That's it. He grabbed her arm, not her wrist, not her elbow, her upper arm, just below the shoulder. His fingers closed around it like a vice. Evelyn gasped. The pain shot through her shoulder and down to her arthritic wrist like an electric current. You're coming with me. Officer, please. My arm. I have arthritis. Should have thought about that before you decided to run your mouth. He pulled her off the hood of the car. Her shoes scraped against the pavement. One of her flats slipped off her foot and tumbled into the gutter. She stumbled forward, her left knee buckling, and for a moment it looked like she was going to fall face first onto the street. She caught herself, barely. Her free hand shot out and grabbed the side mirror of her car. The mirror cracked under the sudden weight. Harlan didn't stop. He didn't slow down. He kept pulling. Her glasses, the same ones that cracked when he first yanked her out, slid off her face and hit the concrete. The left lens popped out and skidded under the car. Now the world blurred into shapes and colors. The oak trees smeared into green. The patrol car became a white and black blob with red and blue lights still spinning silently on top. Officer, I can't see. My glasses. Not my problem. He dragged her toward the patrol car. Her one bare foot scraped against the rough asphalt. She could feel the tiny rocks and pebbles biting into her skin with every step. Pain shot from her knee up through her hip. She tried to keep pace, but he was walking too fast. She was elderly. He wasn't. He didn't care. From across the street, Pastor Hayes stepped out of his truck. He kept the phone raised high. His voice was firm but controlled. Officer, officer, that woman is a senior citizen. You're hurting her. Please stop. Harlan's head snapped toward him. His eyes went hard and flat like two stones. Back up right now unless you want to be next. I'm just asking you to... I said back up. You're interfering with an arrest. One more word and I'll cuff you too. Hayes raised his free hand in the air, palm open. He took one step back, but the phone stayed up. The camera kept rolling. He wasn't going anywhere. Harlan turned back to Evelyn. He shoved her forward the last few steps until her body hit the side of the patrol car. The metal was hot from sitting in the morning sun. She felt it burn through the thin fabric of her dress against her hip. She flinched and tried to pull away. He pushed harder. Hands behind your back. Please, what am I being charged with? I haven't done anything wrong. Resisting arrest, obstructing an officer. Now put your hands behind your back before I put them there myself. Resisting arrest. She hadn't resisted a single thing. Obstructing an officer, she hadn't obstructed anything. Both charges were invented on the spot, fabricated from nothing by a man who couldn't handle the fact that an elderly black woman had the nerve to ask him why. He grabbed her left wrist first, twisted it behind her back. The metal cuff clicked shut, cold, tight. It pinched the swollen joint where her arthritis was worst. She bit her lip so hard she tasted blood, then the right wrist. Click, done. Evelyn Brooks stood handcuffed on the sidewalk of the street where she had lived for decades in front of houses owned by people who loved her, with her Bible lying face down on the ground behind her. One shoe missing, her glasses gone, her purse emptied, her dress wrinkled and dusty from being shoved against a car. And she was crying quietly, not sobbing, not wailing, just tears running down her cheeks in thin, silent lines. She wasn't crying from fear, she wasn't crying for herself, she was crying because she knew this happened to people every single day. People who didn't have a neighbor calling 911, people who didn't have a pastor with a camera phone, people who had no one watching at all. She cried for them. Harlan opened the back door of the patrol car and pushed her inside. Her head nearly hit the door frame. She ducked just in time. The seat was hard plastic. It smelled like sweat and old disinfectant. The metal cage between the front and back seats was scratched with fingernail marks from people who had sat there before her. People who had probably begged, too. The door slammed shut. The sound echoed off the houses. Through the window she could see her car, the passenger door still hanging open, her belongings still scattered, her Bible still face down on the pavement. The wind caught one of its pages and turned it slowly, gently, like even the book was too stunned to move. Whitaker finally stepped out of the patrol car. He stood on the sidewalk and looked at Evelyn through the rear window. Their eyes met for one brief second. She didn't look angry. She didn't look scared. She looked disappointed, like she had seen his kind before. The ones who watch wrong happen and choose silence. He looked away first. He walked to the radio and keyed the mic. His voice was flat, rehearsed. "Dispatch, this is Unit 14. We have one in custody. Oak Ridge and Maple, female, black, elderly. Charges, resisting arrest, obstruction." The message was logged, time-stamped, recorded. 2 doors down, Margaret Ellis stood on the sidewalk with tears running down her face and her phone still pressed to her ear. Her voice cracked when she spoke to the 911 operator. "You need to hurry. He just put Miss Evelyn in the back of a police car. She didn't do a thing. That woman has lived on this street longer than most of us. Not a thing." On the other side of the street, Pastor Hayes lowered his phone. He stopped the recording, saved it again to the cloud. Then he opened his messages and texted the video to his wife with 5 words. "Keep this safe no matter what." The patrol car pulled away from the curb slowly like it had all the time in the world. Evelyn sat in the back with her hands cuffed behind her. Her wrists throbbed with every heartbeat. Her knee ached where it had buckled. Her bare foot was scraped raw. She watched her street slide past through the window. The oak trees, the houses, the wind chimes hanging on her porch still singing in the breeze. Her garden, the roses she had watered earlier when the world still made sense. She closed her eyes, pressed her lips together, and whispered one word so quietly that only God and the plastic seat could hear it. Marcus. The patrol car pulled into the Hadley police station parking lot. Harlan killed the engine and sat for a moment, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. Pleased with himself, another arrest, another name on his daily log, he pulled Evelyn out by her arm. Her bare foot touched the hot asphalt and she flinched. He walked her through the side entrance, past the front desk and into the booking area like she was any other criminal on a Saturday morning. The desk sergeant looked up, a man with decades on the front desk. He had seen every kind of arrest walk through that door. He had never seen an elderly woman in a floral dress, one shoe missing, tears drying on her face. The sergeant looked at Harlan. "What's the charge?" "Resisting arrest. Obstruction." The sergeant looked at Evelyn again. Something in his gut turned over, but he wrote it down. They sat her on a metal bench in the holding area. The bench was cold. The fluorescent lights buzzed and flickered above her head. The room smelled like floor cleaner and stale air. Her wrists had gone numb from the cuffs. A bruise was already forming on her upper arm where Harlan had grabbed her. She didn't ask for water, didn't ask for a lawyer. She asked for one thing. "May I please make a phone call?" Harlan leaned against the far wall filling out paperwork. He didn't look up. "You'll get your call when I'm done." Time passed. Evelyn sat without moving. Her bare foot rested on the cold tile. The scraped skin stung every time she shifted. She breathed in slow counts. In for 4, out for 4. The way she used to teach her first graders when they were upset. Finally, Harlan tossed his pen down. "Fine, make your call. 2 minutes. They uncuffed one hand and gave her a phone. She dialed a number she knew by heart. The same number she had been calling for decades, since the day that boy first left for college. And she made him promise to always pick up when Mama called. 3 rings. Mama, Marcus. Her voice cracked on his name. Just slightly, just enough. Chief Marcus Brooks was sitting in a conference room at the National Law Enforcement Leadership Summit some distance away. His phone had buzzed during a panel discussion. He almost didn't answer, but it was his mother. And Evelyn Brooks never called during the day unless something was wrong. Mama, what happened? She told him calmly, quietly, the traffic stop, the search, the Bible on the ground, the dragging, the handcuffs, the booking desk where she sat right now with one shoe, no glasses, and a bruise turning purple on her arm, all of it, under 2 minutes. Marcus didn't speak for several full seconds. The silence was louder than anything Harlan had ever shouted. When he spoke, his voice was low, the kind of calm that comes right before a storm rips the roof off. Mama, don't say another word to anyone. I'm going to handle this. Okay, baby. He hung up, stepped out of the conference room, called Deputy Chief Sandra Klein. She answered on the first ring. Sandra, it's Marcus. One of our officers just arrested my mother, dragged her out of her car on Oak Ridge Lane. She's in booking right now. Silence. Which officer? I don't have a name yet. Get down there. Get her out, then call me back. Klein grabbed her keys and was out the door in seconds. She arrived at the station minutes later, badge on her hip. She walked straight past the sergeant at the front desk without stopping, past the hallway into the booking area, and there she was, Evelyn Brooks, sitting on a metal bench under buzzing fluorescent lights. One shoe, no glasses, a purple bruise on her arm, wrists rubbed raw from the cuffs. The same woman who brought Klein homemade peach cobbler on her first day as deputy chief. The same woman who sat in the front row at every department ceremony and clapped the loudest for every officer who crossed the stage. Sitting in a holding area like a common criminal, Klein felt her stomach drop. Then her blood rose hot and fast. She walked to Evelyn first, knelt down in front of her, took both her hands. Miss Evelyn, I am so sorry. We're getting you out of here right now. Evelyn looked at her with tired, swollen eyes. She squeezed Klein's hands once. That was all she had the energy for. Klein stood, turned to the sergeant. Her voice came out like iron wrapped in ice. Uncuff her now. The sergeant moved fast. The cuffs came off. Evelyn rubbed her wrists slowly. The skin was raw. Red rings circled both joints like bracelets made of pain. Klein straightened her jacket. Her eyes were burning. Where is Harlan? Break room. Get him in my office now, not in 5 minutes. Now. She turned back to Evelyn one more time. Miss Evelyn, you sit tight. Someone is going to bring you water and a chair with a cushion, and I promise you what happened today will never happen again. Then Deputy Chief Sandra Klein walked down that hallway toward her office with the kind of stride that makes the walls pay attention. Somewhere in the break room, Derek Harlan was pouring himself a cup of coffee, smiling, proud of a job well done. He had no idea that in about 90 seconds his entire life was going to collapse. Harlan walked into Klein's office, still holding his coffee, chin up, chest out, half a smirk on his face. He dropped into the chair across from her desk without being invited. You wanted to see me, Deputy Chief? Klein was standing behind her desk, arms crossed. She didn't sit. Tell me about the arrest you made this morning, Oak Ridge Lane. Harlan shrugged, took a sip. Casual routine stop. Vehicle matched a burglary description. Woman got mouthy, started resisting. I brought her in, open and shut. Klein let the silence sit. 5 seconds. 10. Harlan shifted in his chair. Do you know who that woman is? His smirk flickered. Some lady from Oak Ridge? Why? That woman is Evelyn Brooks, mother of Chief Marcus Brooks, your boss. The coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth. His smirk didn't fade. It collapsed like someone pulled a plug and drained every drop of confidence out of him in half a second. I didn't know. There was no way I could have. Let me stop you right there. Klein's voice dropped low, every word sharpened to a point. Even if that woman was not the chief's mother, even if she had no connection to anyone in this department, you dragged an elderly woman out of her car, you threw her Bible on the ground. You handcuffed her on a public sidewalk for charges you invented out of nothing. That alone ends your career. The fact that she's the chief's mother just means the whole country is about to watch it happen. Harlan set his coffee down. His hand was shaking. The cup rattled against the desk. Deputy Chief, she was being uncooperative. She kept asking questions. I felt threatened. She asked why she was being stopped. That's not uncooperative. That's her constitutional right. If I could just talk to her, apologize, maybe we can work something. Apologize. Klein stared at him. You think sorry fixes a bruise on an elderly woman's arm? You think a handshake puts her glasses back together? You think an apology erases time in a holding area with one shoe and no phone call? Harlan opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Klein straightened up. Badge, gun on the desk now. His hands trembled when he unclipped the badge from his belt. The metal caught the light as he placed it down. Then the gun. He set it beside the badge with both hands like it suddenly weighed 100 pounds. You are suspended without pay, effective immediately. You will not contact Mrs. Brooks. You will not contact any witness. You will not speak to the press. Internal Affairs and the State Attorney General's office will handle this personally. Chief Brooks has recused himself, so there is no one left in this building to protect you. Harlan stood, his legs barely held. The chair scraped against the floor. You can't do this. I have a union. I have rights. Your union can't save you from dash cam footage or a civilian recording or a 911 call from a neighbor who watched every second. You buried yourself today, Harlan. All of it is on tape. She pressed the intercom. Send 2 officers to my office to escort Officer Harlan out and pull Officer Whitaker from patrol. He is suspended too. Two officers appeared at the door within a minute. They didn't speak. Harlan looked at them, looked back at Klein, then looked down at the desk where his badge and gun sat under the fluorescent light like two pieces of a life that no longer belonged to him. He walked out between the two officers, down the hallway, past the sergeant at the front desk watching in silence, past the break room where his coffee was still warm, past the door he had walked through 1,000 times with his chin up. This time, his head was down. Back in the booking area, Evelyn sat in a cushioned chair that someone had brought for her, a cup of water in her hand, her wrists still red, her arms still bruised, her one bare foot resting on the cold tile. Klein walked in, knelt beside her, took her hand. "Miss Evelyn, your son is on his way home, and I give you my word, what that officer did today will have consequences. Real ones." Evelyn looked at her, squeezed her hand once, then said the thing that would become the heartbeat of everything that followed. "I know you'll take care of me, sweetheart. But what about the ones who don't have a son who's police chief? What happens to them?" Klein didn't answer right away because the truth was heavy, and Evelyn had just put it right in her hands. Pastor Hayes's video hit the internet that evening. His wife uploaded it to every platform she could think of. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. She titled it the same thing every time. "Cop drags elderly black woman out of her car in front of her own home." By later that night, it had spread widely. The video was several minutes long. It captured everything. The moment Harlan grabbed Evelyn's arm, the moment her glasses hit the concrete, the moment her shoe fell off, the moment her body hit the side of the patrol car, the moment Pastor Hayes asked him to stop, the moment Harlan threatened to arrest him too, and the moment Evelyn, elderly, one shoe gone, hands cuffed behind her back, was pushed into the back of a squad car on the street where she had lived for decades. That's all it took to end Derek Harlan's life as he knew it. A local reporter broke the full story the next morning. She had everything: Pastor Hayes's video, Margaret Ellis's 911 call, interviews with neighbors who witnessed the stop, a statement from the Hadley Police Department confirming that Harlan and Whitaker had been suspended, and one detail that turned a local story into a national headline. The woman in the video was the mother of the city's police chief. Soon, every major network in the country was running the story. The headline was the same everywhere, sometimes word for word. "Officer drags elderly black woman from car. She was the police chief's mother." Civil rights organizations issued statements within hours. Community leaders demanded accountability. The mayor of Hadley held a press conference and called the incident a failure at every level. The governor's office released a statement saying the state was monitoring the situation closely, but the story didn't stop at Harlan. It never does, because when you pull one thread, the whole fabric starts to unravel. The state attorney general's office opened a formal investigation within days. They started with the arrest itself. The dashcam footage confirmed everything in Pastor Hayes's video and added more. Audio from inside the patrol car caught Harlan's comments during the initial stop. Things he said to Whitaker before he even approached Evelyn's window. Things about the neighborhood, about the people in it, about what kind of person drives a car like that in a place like this. Every word recorded, every word admissible. Then they pulled Harlan's personnel file. And that's when the real damage began. Many prior complaints. Excessive force, racial profiling, verbal abuse, unlawful stops. Many complaints filed by many different people over some years. Every single one had been reviewed by internal affairs under the department's previous leadership. Every single one had been dismissed, marked as unfounded or insufficient evidence, or resolved informally. Many people had raised their hands and said, "This man is dangerous." Many times the system looked the other way. Not anymore. Several of Harlan's previous victims came forward publicly within the first week. They told their stories to the reporter, to national reporters, to anyone who would listen. A young college student pulled over for driving a nice car. A father handcuffed in front of his children during a traffic stop for a broken taillight. A young girl forced to sit on a curb for some time while Harlan searched her car and found nothing. Story after story after story, different faces, different days, same officer, same contempt. The internal review expanded. 3 former supervisors who had signed off on dismissing Harlan's complaints were placed under investigation. 1 had already retired. 2 were still on the force. All 3 were suspended pending review. The trial began sometime later in the Hadley County Courthouse, Judge Harold Bennett presiding. The courtroom was packed every single day. Local residents, national press, civil rights attorneys, and in the front row every morning without fail sat Evelyn Brooks, back straight, hands folded, new glasses on her face, both shoes on her feet. She didn't miss a single session. The prosecution's case was built on concrete. Dashcam footage, Pastor Hayes's video, Margaret Ellis's 911 recording, dispatch logs, Whitaker's own radio call confirming the arrest, medical records showing the bruise on Evelyn's arm and the abrasions on her foot, and Harlan's personnel file. All the complaints laid out one by one like nails in a coffin. Harlan's defense attorney tried everything. He called it a routine stop that escalated due to miscommunication. He argued Harlan followed standard procedure. He claimed Evelyn had been verbally combative. The prosecution played the dashcam audio. Evelyn's voice came through the courtroom speakers, calm, polite, saying please and sir and thank you, while a man twice her size screamed at her to shut up. The jury didn't need long after that. Harlan took the stand. His attorney advised against it. He did it anyway. Under cross-examination, he contradicted his own police report several times in the first minutes. He referred to Evelyn as that woman. When asked if he would have made the same stop if the driver had been a white woman his mother's age, he hesitated before saying, "That's not relevant." The jury noticed. Everyone noticed. Deliberation took little time. Guilty, all counts, assault on a senior citizen, false arrest, violation of civil rights, filing a false police report. Judge Bennett delivered the sentence 1 week later. The courtroom was silent when he spoke. "Officer Harlan, you were entrusted with a badge and a duty to protect every citizen of this community. Instead, you used that badge as a weapon against the most vulnerable. You targeted a woman because of the color of her skin. You fabricated charges to cover your abuse, and you did so believing, as you had believed many times before, that no one would hold you accountable. You were wrong. Years in state prison, no possibility of early parole for the first several." Whitaker received a suspended sentence and hours of community service. Both were permanently banned from law enforcement anywhere in the country. The courtroom erupted, not in cheers, in exhales, the kind of sound a room makes when something that should have happened a long time ago finally does. Evelyn sat in the front row. She didn't clap, she didn't cry, she closed her eyes and nodded once slowly, like a prayer had finally been answered. Sometime later, the dogwoods were blooming along Oak Ridge Lane. Pink and white petals drifted across the sidewalks like confetti from a celebration no one had planned. Evelyn Brooks was in her garden. Same house, same porch, same wind chimes, singing the same song her husband had hung up decades ago. She was on her knees in the soft dirt, planting new roses along the front walkway, red ones this time, her late husband's favorite color. She wore gardening gloves and a wide-brimmed sun hat. Her new glasses sat comfortably on her nose, both shoes on her feet. No bruises on her arms. Gospel music drifted from the kitchen window just like it always had, just like it always would. Across the street, Margaret Ellis waved from her porch. Evelyn waved back. Same wave, same smile. Decades of friendship in a single gesture. Some things don't change, some things shouldn't, but other things had changed, and they had changed because of what happened on this street some time ago. 3 blocks east at the corner, a new sign stood in front of the Hadley Community Center, bronze letters on a stone base. It read, "The Evelyn Brooks Community Policing Initiative, because every citizen deserves dignity." The city council had voted unanimously to establish it, a civilian oversight board with real authority to review complaints against officers. Mandatory body cameras for every officer on every shift, no exceptions, a complete overhaul of de-escalation training, and a new early warning system designed to flag officers with repeated complaints before those complaints became someone's worst day. The 3 former supervisors who had buried Harlan's complaints were gone. 2 had been fired. 1 faced a separate federal investigation for obstruction. The culture that had protected men like Harlan for years was being dismantled piece by piece, brick by brick. Evelyn didn't take credit for any of it. When reporters asked her how it felt to be the face of police reform in Hadley, she shook her head and smiled. "I'm not the face of anything, I'm just a retired teacher who is on her way to church." But then she'd pause and her voice would get quiet and she'd say the thing she always said. "I had a son who could make 1 phone call and change everything. Most people don't. This isn't about me, it's about making sure the next person, the one with no phone call to make, gets treated like a human being." Chief Marcus Brooks came home every Sunday for dinner. They sat on the porch together as the sun went down, sweet tea in tall glasses, the wind chimes filling the silence between words. He told her about the new policies, the new training programs, the new officers coming through the academy who were learning a different way. She listened, nodded. Then she told him the same thing she had told him since he was young. Power is not about what you can do to people. It's about what you choose not to do. Remember that. As for the men who started all of this, Derek Harlan sat in a cell at the Virginia State Correctional Facility. Years. His appeals had been denied. His name was permanently entered into the federal civil rights violation database. No police department in the country would ever hire him again. The man who once bragged that internal affairs complaints never stick was now an inmate. No badge, no gun, no power. Ryan Whitaker spent his days at the Hadley Senior Citizen Center, completing hours of court-ordered community service. Every morning he helped elderly residents with their meals, their medication, their walks around the garden, people the same age as the woman he had watched being dragged across a sidewalk while he stood by and said nothing. The irony was not lost on him. It was not meant to be. On a Saturday morning, Evelyn finished planting her last rose bush. She stood up slowly, brushed the dirt off her gloves, and looked down the street. The same oaks, the same houses, the same neighborhood someone once told her she didn't belong in. She belonged. She had always belonged. And now there was a bronze sign 3 blocks away to prove that the whole city knew it. She picked up her Bible, the new one with a leather cover her granddaughter had given her to replace the one that cracked on the pavement, and headed inside to get ready for church. The wind chimes sang behind her. Some things don't change, some things shouldn't, and some things, the ones that needed to change most, finally did. A cop dragged a 72-year-old woman out of her car on the street where she lived for decades. But the real story, many people filed complaints against Officer Harlan before he touched Evelyn Brooks. Many. Excessive force, racial profiling, unlawful stops. Every single complaint was dismissed, marked unfounded, filed away. Then Harlan grabbed Evelyn, threw her Bible on the ground, handcuffed a woman with arthritis on a public sidewalk, and suddenly everything worked. Investigations, trials, accountability, years in prison. Why did the system finally work for Evelyn? Because her son was the police chief. But Evelyn asked the question that breaks this whole story open. What about the ones who don't have a son who's police chief? Many people before Evelyn got nothing. No investigations, no judges, just complaints buried in filing cabinets by supervisors who chose silence. Ryan Whitaker sat in that patrol car watching his partner hurt an elderly woman. He never opened the door, never spoke up, just watched. How many times have you seen wrong happen and said nothing? Told yourself someone else would handle it or it wasn't your place? Whitaker's silence gave Harlan permission for years until someone with power finally forced the truth into daylight. Share this if justice shouldn't require connections. Comment, when did your silence cost someone else? Subscribe for stories proving accountability starts with people watching. Evelyn proves something painful. The system doesn't protect everyone, just the ones loud enough to be heard.